GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight, weekends from 9 p.m.
I've personally been very torn on whether Prince Harry should have full police protection when he's in the United Kingdom. On the one hand, why should taxpayers fork out for somebody that's left the country and the institution? He is no longer a working, serving royal. But I don't think it matters. He is one of the most famous men in the world, and whether he's a royal or not, he is an ambassador for this country. And he still does good. Charitable causes, the Invictus Games, and he is still a nice and charming guy with a heart. And whilst he has left the royal family and departed these shores, he was and remains the son of King Charles. That is a biological fact. Well, let's hope so. And it wasn't his choice to be born into royalty. It wasn't his choice to be the son of the king. And for that reason, I think he should have equal police protection to his brother William when he is in this country. He couldn't be a more high-profile figure, and unfortunately, like all the royals, Harry will be a target for some very bad people. I fear that if, God forbid, anything happened to him or his family, the authorities would have blood on their hands. So, it's not often that I back Prince Harry, but on this one, he has my support. Look what happened to his poor mum, killed in a Paris tunnel in the 1990s with an allegedly drunk chauffeur. A top royal security insider recently told me that Diana would still be with us today if she had had top royal protection at that time. So let's not make the same mistake twice. Prince Harry needs full protection and the best we've got. Yes, he might be a numpty, but he's our numpty.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Friday the 15th of March. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Pip Thompson and me, Ellie Costello.
Meghan Markle launches a new lifestyle brand moments before Prince William takes to the stage to honour his mother, Princess Diana. Coincidence or calculated? Our reporter Cameron Walker has more.
Prince William says he and Catherine focus on the legacy of Princess Diana every day, but meanwhile, Meghan has launched this new lifestyle blog within an hour of this event happening. More details shortly.
MPs' salaries will increase by 5.5% in April, taking their yearly wage to over £91,000. We're asking, does your local MP deserve it?
Rishi Sunak rules out a general election on May the 2nd, the same day when voters are set to go to the polls for the local elections.
Russia jams signals on an RAF plane carrying Defence Minister Grant Shapps and a group of journalists, including our very own GB News reporter Ray Addison.
You'll love this. Drivers are warned to stay away from a 5-mile stretch of the M25 in Surrey this weekend. There'll be an unprecedented closure of the motorway.
Yes, let us know what you make of that, especially if you live near that section of the M25. Apparently, the reroute away from the M25 is going to be through all the little villages. It's going to take double the length of time. They're expecting massive traffic jams there over the weekend. Let us know what you think about that.
As it's been suggested, you might just want to redecorate your bathroom.
Yes, that's what's being suggested. Yes, what do you make of that? Do let us know. Also, MPs pay £91,000, I think it's £436 a year now. Do you think they deserve it, considering the front page of the Financial Times today says that the parliamentary day is now the shortest that it's ever been in 25 years? What do you think about that? Do let us know, gbnews@gbnews.com. But first, let's get a news bulletin with Tatiana.
Ellie, thank you. The top stories from the GB Newsroom this morning. Speculation continues to mount over the general election after the Prime Minister ruled out the 2nd of May as a possible date. Rishi Sunak told ITV News West Country he doesn't want the vote to coincide with what he described as important local elections being held on that day. Questions have been raised about another date in May or even the summer, despite the Prime Minister saying earlier this year that he's working on the assumption of a general election in the autumn. Labour's Deputy National Coordinator Ellie Reeves says now's the time to go to the polls.
He could call an election up until the 26th of March to take place on the 2nd of May. So, just get on and call it. The 2nd of May is the right time in the electoral cycle to have an election. We've got council and mayoral elections on that day. What's he running scared of? It's time to give the public a say, and he's still got time to call it.
Millions of pounds worth of drugs and 8 XL bullies have been seized during county lines raids. Hundreds of weapons were also found, including Rambo knives and machetes. Every police force across the UK took part in the raids last week, resulting in more than 1,800 arrests. Hundreds of phone lines used to distribute drugs from cities to towns and villages were also shut down. Hamas is said to be moving towards a truce deal with Israel, but Benjamin Netanyahu has called the terror group's list of demands unrealistic. Thousands of people in Israel took to the streets last night, demanding an immediate release of hostages from Gaza. According to news agency Reuters, Hamas has presented a Gaza ceasefire proposal, which includes a first stage of releasing Israeli women, children and the elderly, in exchange for the freedom of Palestinian prisoners. 100 of them are currently serving life sentences. Private firms are issuing an average of more than 35,000 parking tickets to drivers every day amid a wait for the government to regulate the industry. Analysis from motoring company RAC said many drivers could feel badly let down by the government's delay in introducing a code of conduct. It found 9.7 million tickets were issued to drivers in Britain between April and December last year, with each ticket potentially costing drivers up to £100. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alert.
A very good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Ellie and Pip. Great to have you with us this Friday morning. And it's the morning after 2 brothers appeared at the same event, but very much separately. Who might we be talking about, Ellie?
That might be Prince William and Prince Harry, who couldn't actually bring themselves to share the stage last night at an event honouring their late mother. But it was a night that they paid tribute to her legacy. Prince William went first.
The evening's Legacy Award is particularly special as it marks the 25th anniversary year of the Diana Award. She taught me that everyone has the potential to give something back, that everyone in need deserves a supporting hand in life. That legacy is something that both Catherine and I sought to focus on through our work.
Then Prince Harry gave a message via video call, but only after his brother had already left the event.
I'm seriously impressed with the work that you do, especially at the young age that you're at. And the future's yours. That's why you've been chosen, and that's why you've been given these awards. So my mum would be incredibly proud of all the work that you've done. I'm incredibly proud, and thank you for doing everything that you do.
Well, just 1 hour before the ceremony began, Meghan Markle launched this lifestyle brand on Instagram.
I wish you bluebirds in the spring to give your heart a song to sing, and then a kiss, but more than this,
Coincidental or calculated from Meghan? What do you reckon? Well, there's quite a lot to unpack here. So joining us in the studio is our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, can we just start on the 2 brothers at the same event, Diana Legacy Awards, talking about how proud their mother would be. How proud would their mother be that they were at the event together?
Well,
estranged.
I cannot speak for Princess Diana, but I think most people in the world would think she would be heartbroken by the fact that Harry and William could not be, or refused to be, in the same room as one another. Even if clearly the logistics of Prince Harry being in the United States could cause an issue, but even Prince William being on the stage and Harry appearing behind him on a video link, that didn't happen either. Prince William had left by the time Prince Harry did that video call with the winners. And it's just such a contrast to 2017, which was the inaugural Princess Diana Legacy Awards. The charity has been around for 25 years, but the awards has been going since 2017. And in St James's Palace, William and Harry were on the stage together, championing young people, because the whole point of the awards is Princess Diana's belief that young people have the power to change the world. And we do see that legacy rubbing off on both William and Harry, as they're both alluding to. But the fact that they just were so separate just clearly shows that there is still a massive rift between the two brothers.
And also, my problem with this is that it completely distracts from the awards, because we're not talking about them. We're talking about this ongoing rift between them.
Yeah, and that's a huge issue for them. And I think over the last 3-4 years, the royal family, the distraction of Harry and Meghan, Megsits moving across the other side of the Atlantic, it has been a massive distraction and a massive headache. Prince William can say all he likes in the speech, but if he's refusing to appear with his brother at the same time, I'm not saying if there were conversations that they might be back together, then clearly it is going to distract. But also, on the other hand, if they did decide to appear together on the stage, arguably that would be an even bigger story, because it would be the start of that reunion and the mending of ties. But clearly that would be a step in the right direction, and the awards, I think, inevitably were always going to be overshadowed.
How positive it would have been for them to have appeared together. Like you say, Harry could have been on a screen behind William at the Diana Legacy Awards. That would have been such a positive news story.
Yeah, and the Royal Editor of the Evening Standard done a column in the Mail this morning saying that Princess Diana would knock their heads together, knock some sense into them, but of course she isn't here, really sadly, and it appears that they just really are not on speaking terms. Even when Harry came back to the UK following King Charles's cancer diagnosis, they did not meet. And you'd think your father having cancer would be a good opportunity to meet, but clearly not.
Yeah, it's such a sad state of affairs, isn't it? Look, let's talk about the remarkable timing, really, just 1 hour before the Diana Legacy Awards, when Meghan Markle decided to launch America Riviera Orchard.
Yeah.
It's her new lifestyle blog.
Totally unexpected. I think nobody was expecting it that evening. In fact, when I first saw it, I wasn't sure if it was real or not, but I contacted Meghan's office and they confirmed to me that, yes, it is absolutely legitimate. This is Meghan's new lifestyle blog, America Riviera Orchard. She has a track record on launching quite successful lifestyle blogs. The Tig, before she met Prince Harry, very successful for her commercially. The whole point of her and Harry leaving the royal family, arguably, was so they could pursue their own commercial deals, and that's exactly what she is doing. So fair play to her, but the timing is the issue here, because it was an hour before her husband and brother-in-law were honouring the legacy of Princess Diana, and it does have the potential to overshadow. Now, the cynic in me would say it was timed deliberately to to coincide with that awards, to try and get as much coverage as possible for the new blog. It could also just be a coincidence. We simply don't know, but I think a lot of people are questioning the timing this morning.
As of this morning, it's got more than 331,000 followers.
Yeah, she's popular.
And when she did that little video for Insta Stories, what was the soundtrack? I Wish You Love by Nancy Wilson. I wonder if she was wishing the royal family love as well. Does it include them?
Well, quite possibly. We see her also cooking in a nice motherly way, rearranging flowers, roses and the like. She's got a new agent, WME, which is a prestigious Hollywood agency who are known for really bringing tactics for commercial deals and perhaps improving her brand. She is the least popular member of the royal family in the United Kingdom, apart from Prince Andrew, and she will be acutely aware of that. And I think WME will also be aware of that. And this is her trying to perhaps improve her popularity, and also their power of all the commercial stuff they can have could see a few brand deals going along with this blog.
Now, what are the rules with brand deals? Because I thought under the name Duchess of Sussex, she couldn't profit or run a business?
So what she cannot capitalise on is the word royal. That was agreed at the Sandringham Summit back in 2020. The Duchess of Sussex is a bit more of a grey line. I think arguably, and what she would argue, is that she isn't capitalising on her title. She's capitalising on the American Riviera Orchards title. But still, her name by Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, is on the tin. But she's also launched Sussex.com, so it's using that Sussex title. But technically, it's not royal, so she could get away with it.
I see. Working those loopholes. Thank you very much, Cameron Walker. Very good to see you. Thank you very much.
The Prime Minister has ruled out holding a general election on the 2nd of May, following speculation that he could choose to hold the vote early.
Well, meanwhile, MPs are getting another pay rise, bringing their salary to over £91,000 at a time where it's reported that MPs clock off earlier in a length of day. In the Commons, it's now hit a record low, the lowest in 25 years, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Richard Graham, he's going to talk to us. He's the Conservative MP for Gloucester. Good morning, Richard. Explain to me then why you as an MP are worth, or going to be worth, £91,346 a year.
I've tried to make the argument that I'm worth anything. I've always believed that this was a job which was a 7-day-a-week job, probably 15 hours a day on many occasions, and we get on and do it as best as we possibly can, individually and collectively, and then somebody else decides what are the rations we should be paid. Many of us took a big sort of pay cut to come into politics. Some people are getting more money than they used to. So there's a complete range of sort of free market options, if you like, to work out what any of us are worth. But the most important thing is, do you want to have, you know, good people doing an important job as best they can and working hard? And that's the measure we should all be judged by.
No, of course, we can all appreciate that argument. What do you make of the front page of the Financial Times this morning that reports that the parliamentary day for MPs is now the shortest that it's been in 25 years, just 7 hours and 9 minutes? You can understand why some people might look at this pay rise and look at the £91,000 a year figure and say, well, is this deserved?
Yeah, the trouble is, of course, that what the FT is looking at is the number of hours that the Chamber of the House of Commons is actually operating, and that's their criterion. But the reality of it is huge amounts of work are going on outside the chamber, whether it's in select committee meetings or meetings, for example, of the Joint Committee of National Security Strategy that I sit on, the all-party groups, the meetings with constituent workers, trade envoys, which is often completely invisible, you name it. There are huge amounts of things that everybody is doing, including, of course, all the government ministers who've got that job as well. So it's not the best way to judge it, although I agree that the perception and the visibility of it is probably, you know, not one that helps the argument. But I think you'd all be amazed if anyone was trying to shadow us for a day in the Commons or in our constituencies at how much goes on.
And how much is also going on, Richard, is the conversation about when the general election is going to be. And yesterday, the Prime Minister appeared to rule out an election on May the 2nd. What's your take on this? Can you give us any insider knowledge at all? No election on May the 2nd, but could there maybe be a general election in June?
I mean, the great thing about the question, when will the general election be, is that it can generate miles of media coverage and hours of discussion. But ultimately, the question is one that only the Prime Minister is in the position to answer. And it may well be that he hasn't made up his mind precisely.
OK, let me slightly reword it then. Reword the question.
But I suspect, if you want me to give a bit of insight into it, I suspect his thinking is probably along the lines of, we have a plan, it's working, inflation is coming down, growth is coming back, energy prices are starting to come down, will come down much more in April, mortgage rates will follow, bank of interest rates obviously as well, and therefore more evidence that the plan is working and that the tax cuts are feeding through to people's wage packets, that pensioners get the increase that is coming this year, will make the argument stronger. Yeah.
Very quick question. Can you give me a very quick answer? When would you like to see a general election? Give me a date.
I'm relaxed. Whenever the Prime Minister chooses the date, I'm ready.
Good answer. Richard Graham, thank you very much. Good to see you this morning. Richard Graham is Conservative MP for Gloucester.
You're with Britain's Newsroom. Do stay with us. It is a huge weekend of rugby. And there is a great chance of British success, although the mathematics about this, it's all pretty complicated. We'll be filling you in very shortly here on GB News.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Get this right, we all know by now, don't we, that so many NHS workers are abused by people that they're trying to help. We'll all agree that that is pretty damn disgraceful, but what do we do about it? Because now some London hospitals are looking at whether or not they should be able to ban people that do this for a year from those hospital facilities. Is that the way forward? Daniel, do you like this? No abuse, no excuse, that is the campaign?
There's no other choice for most people. It's either the NHS or nothing. And if you're going to take that monopolistic power, then you need, I think, you have responsibilities towards people. You can't cut them off. So there are ways in which, of course, you can bring criminal charges against them. If they commit a criminal offence, that's fine. They might even be locked up in jail. But what you can't do is cut off health services because you're the only supplier.
Well, yes, I think you can cut it off and you should cut it off. London is very different from everywhere else, and it goes back to a conversation about immigration. The majority of nurses in London are either African or Filipino, and it harks back to their nature and their culture. When you're younger, your parents look after you. When you're older, you look after them. They don't go into homes. So there's a way that a threshold of tolerance they have that is above and beyond most people. So, because I found like when I was younger, most of the nurses were white. Now they work in hospitals in Ascot and Somerset. London is the war zone. I have seen horrific things happen to nurses, and they stay, they show up for work. There's a protection they are owed, beyond owed. And if you abuse something that's offered to you as a part of your citizenship, there should be a penalty for that. For the same reason,
you're obliged to use it. There's no offer involved in the NHS.
But there is an offer, because at the end of the day, like you figure out how to get money and go private. So just because you've created something that gives you no, it's easy. If it's
that's
easy,
an impossible solution.
They've created something that's kind and easy and beneficial to all, indeed. But it's a good thing for all. Do not abuse it. That simple.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Dubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Ellie and Pip. Great to have you with us this morning. Now, if you didn't know, it is a whopper of a weekend for rugby.
Yes, Ireland, England, Scotland or France can still win this year's tournament in the final round of matches being billed as Super Saturday. And it is all to play for, isn't it, Paul Coyce?
It is all to play for, and I suppose you're going to try and ask me what the permutations are and to try and make some sense of it.
Yes,
keep it simple.
I'm the wrong man to do this, but I will try my very best. So there's the last 3 games of the Six Nations, and it has been a really good Six Nations because it's been all over the place. Because there's, you've got... Look at Italy, who never win. They won 1 game in all the years they were playing in Six Nations. And then they managed to beat Scotland, they nearly beat France, England beat Wales, England beat Ireland last week, which wasn't expected. So the way we're going at the moment, these are the games that are going to be happening. So Wales versus Italy is at 2:15. So that's where we're looking at the wooden spoon, because they're the bottom 2. Ireland will play Scotland at 4:45, and then France versus England and Lyon, which is at 8 o'clock. Now, it could be decided by then with Ireland if they manage to win. How are we doing so far?
So is it Ireland's to lose then?
It is Ireland's to lose, although France sometimes play in Toulouse, which could then also make it even more worrying. So Ireland, can you imagine if France are playing in Toulouse and it's the French Toulouse, and they go, what, Toulouse in Toulouse? Then it really would get even worse. I'm making it more complicated. So Ireland are top with 16, and we've got England, Scotland, France, Italy and Wales.
So England could still win?
Absolutely they can, but I will give you some permutations. Now, Ireland, you'll have to forgive me, I have written this down so I get this correct. Ireland could lose Ireland could lose to Scotland but still win the championships. Now, Ireland will retain the title, which they won last year, if they win or draw against Scotland tomorrow in Dublin. Now, if Ireland lose, this is where things start getting complicated, with a bonus point, because there are bonus points if you score 4 or more tries, or you lose by less than 7, you pick up a bonus point. And that's when things start getting complicated. 4 for a win, 2 for a draw, plus there's bonus points at stake.
Blimey O'Reilly, could anybody
I've lost you
wrap their
already.
heads around this morning?
England can win the title, Pip, if England manage to beat France with a bonus point, which is 4 or more tries, and Ireland fail to get a point in that game against England.
Do you have a calculator?
I have an abacus, in fact, and this is how I've been doing this. Scotland can win the title. Now, this is when things start getting a little bit difficult. Scotland could win the title if they manage to beat Ireland with a bonus point and by more than 7, and need France to beat England without a bonus point. You know what? It makes some sort of sense, but you have to sit and look at it for quite some time. Now, there's the wooden spoon, which is whoever comes last. Now, by the way, there's not going to be any Grand Slam, which means that there's not one country that's beaten all the others. The Triple Crown, which is for the home nations, could be won by Scotland, should they win. So, and with the wooden spoon, Italy have been last the last 9 seasons, but they need to beat Scotland, and Wales need to beat Italy to avoid coming last, with bonus points.
Do you know what? I still don't have a Scooby-Doo what that conversation was all about.
Well,
but I will analyse it very closely
from the beginning again? No. I could start all over again.
Just enjoy the matches, I think.
Enjoy the games and just take it as it comes, but it will be an exciting... It's Super Saturday. It will be great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Still to come, Dua Lipa and Coldplay are headlining Glastonbury this year. Doesn't sound very rock and roll to us. Let us know what you think. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, here's your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It has been a pretty mild week, but we're actually likely to see a touch of frost in some places tonight. Before then, though, it's a showery day for many of us. Perhaps some more persistent rain across parts of southern Scotland, northern England, but that will clear away towards the east as we go through the day. Elsewhere, some bright or sunny spells, but also quite a few showers, and some of these could turn heavy, possibly even thundery down towards the southeast. It is still mild at the moment, temperatures reaching highs of around 15 or 16 Celsius, so well above average for the time of year, but cooler towards the north. As we go later on, we are actually going to see a ridge of high pressure building. That's going to quieten our weather down. So most of the showers will ease and die out and clear away towards the east. And so it's going to turn mostly dry overnight, and we will have some clear skies. As a result, we're going to see temperatures taking a bit of a dip. Most places turning a bit chilly. Across some northern parts, we could see a touch of frost as temperatures fall a little bit below freezing in prone spots. So we wake up Saturday morning, a chilly but mostly fine start, maybe a few pockets of fog around, staying generally dry with a decent amount of sunshine towards the north and east, but across southern and western parts here, clouds going to push its way in, some outbreaks of rain initially, turning heavier as we go through the afternoon. Temperatures will pick up after a chilly start, so again we're likely to see highs in the mid-teens Celsius. Rain will push through as we go through Saturday night into Sunday, but once that clears, Sunday's looking mostly dry for many of us. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
Oh, flipping heck. I don't know what to say.
enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Nana Queer. Weekends from 3 p.m.
Should we put tobacco-style warnings on ultra-processed foods? Boris Johnson is calling on the government to do this. In this Daily Mail column, the former Prime Minister says that people don't know what they're feeding their families and there's too many extra ingredients. That's why I'm asking, should we put tobacco-style warnings on ultra-processed food? Well, joining me now to discuss, Steve Miller, former presenter of Fat Families, Helena Davidson, campaigner and policy expert at the Vegan Society. Right, so I'm going to start with you. Steve Miller, what do you think?
Oh, I'm applauding Boris today. Good on you, mate. And the reason for that is we know that the research on the warnings on cigarettes, I should say, when those warnings were visual, they worked very well. The second reason on a practical level is that we need to stop looking and listening before we start, grazing and putting things in the trolley. And the third thing is that, these kind of signs, or these warnings, I should say, are kind of hypnotic. They trigger the emotion. So they're much more likely to get people to think and maybe resist.
Yeah, so at the Vegan Society, we're broadly in favour of increasing consumer knowledge when it comes to the nutritional value of people's food. But I think it's important to mention that ultra-processed food isn't an issue that's exclusive to vegans. And whilst most meat alternatives will fall into the ultra-processed food category, it largely depends on how we're going to look at how UPFs are going to be assessed, because vegan alternatives that fall under ultra-processed foods, they're actually, on average, healthier than meat products or ultra-processed foods that contain animal products. Really? So I think it depends on how we look at it. We might have to take a closer look at the nutritional profile of individual foods rather than the level of processing.
Good morning. It is 10 o'clock on Friday, the 15th of March. You are with Britain's Newsroom with Ellie Costello and Pip Thompson.
Meghan Markle launches a new lifestyle brand just 1 hour before Prince William took to the stage to honour his late mother, Princess Diana, last night. A coincidence, or was it a calculated move?
The Conservatives are under pressure over receiving £5 million more than previously declared from the donor accused of racism. Our political editor, Christopher Hope, has more.
That's right, the Tories get another £5 million reportedly from the race row donor, taking the total to £15 million. But will they hand any of it back? We'll find out.
Stressed civil servants, employees at Britain's official stats body, have threatened to go on strike after being asked to work in the office for 2 days a week rather than full-time work from home.
Drivers are being handed an average of more than 35,000 parking tickets by private companies every day in Britain.
MPs' salaries will increase by 5.5% in April, taking their yearly wage to over £91,000. We're asking you this morning, does your local MP deserve that?
Let us know your thoughts on everything, won't you? We've also got this talking point about Prince William, Prince Harry at the Diana Legacy Awards. Although they were separate, they were there together. And this issue of Meghan launching this lifestyle brand minutes before William turned up. What do you think of that? Do you actually care? Do you care?
Well, no, I won't be buying jam from Meghan Markle's website anytime soon.
Might
Do
be
let
very
us know.
tasty.
They might be tasty. I bet you it's very expensive. Do let us know what you think. GBViews at gbnews.com. I bet it is overpriced. Let's get some news headlines now, shall we, with Tatiana?
Ellie, thank you. The top stories from the GB Newsroom. Speculation continues to mount over the general election after the Prime Minister ruled out the 2nd of May as a possible date. Rishi Sunak told ITV News West Country he doesn't want the vote to coincide with what he described as important local elections being held on that day. Questions have been raised about another date in May or even the summer, despite the Prime Minister saying earlier this year that he's working on the assumption of a general election in the autumn. Labour's Deputy National Coordinator Ellie Reeves says now's the time to go to the polls.
He could call an election up until the 26th of March to take place on the 2nd of May. So, just get on and call it. The 2nd of May is the right time in the electoral cycle to have an election. We've got council and mayoral elections on that day. What's he running scared of? It's time to give the public a say, and he's still got time to call it.
Millions of pounds worth of drugs and 8 XL bully dogs have been seized during County Lines raids. Hundreds of weapons were also found, including Rambo knives and machetes. Every police force across the country took part in the raids last week, resulting in more than 1,800 arrests. Phone lines used to distribute drugs from cities to towns and villages were also shut down. Former Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville told GB News the crackdown still doesn't solve the wider problem.
Drugs trade is like the Greek story of the Hydra. You cut one head off and 2 more grow in its place. And what's really frightening with County Lines is how they use children. And the reason they use children is because the police were very successful with undercover officers who are obviously adults. And so the drug dealers don't trust anybody they don't know who's an adult, but they well know that the police are not allowed to use children as some kind of undercover agent.
Hamas is said to be moving towards a truce deal, but Israel's Prime Minister says the terror group's list of demands are unrealistic. Thousands of people staged a demonstration in Tel Aviv last night, demanding the immediate release of hostages from Gaza. According to news agency Reuters, Hamas has presented a ceasefire proposal, which includes releasing some Israeli women, children and the elderly in exchange for the freedom of Palestinian prisoners, 100 of which are currently serving life sentences. An Ofcom study has found that children first see violent online content at primary school, and they say it's unavoidable. The regulator spoke to 247 children who all said they'd seen things such as adult-only video game content, fighting and verbal discrimination. Social media and group chats were the most common way they came across the content. Some 10 to 14-year-olds say they feel pressured to watch it from fear of isolation from peers if they don't. Private firms are issuing an average of more than 35,000 parking tickets to drivers every day amid a wait for the government to regulate the industry. Analysis from motoring company RAC said many drivers could feel badly let down by the government's delay in introducing a code of conduct. It found 9.7 million tickets were issued to drivers in Britain between April and December last year, with each ticket potentially costing drivers up to £100. The parking bill received royal assent 5 years ago, but the code hasn't yet been implemented. The Duke of Sussex and Prince of Wales made separate addresses honouring their mother at the Diana Legacy Awards last night. At the charity's 25th anniversary, the Prince said his mother taught him that everyone has the potential to give something back. He told the audience that he and his wife, the Princess of Wales, have sought to focus on Diana's legacy through their work. Prince William attended the event in person, while the Duke of Sussex dialed in virtually from California.
I am seriously impressed with the work that you do, especially at the young age that you're at. And the future's yours, right? And you're helping to shape that future. That's why you've been chosen, and that's why you've been given these awards. So my mum would be incredibly proud of all the work that you've done. I'm incredibly proud, and thank you for doing everything that you do.
For For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Ellie and Pip.
Good morning. It's 7 minutes past 10. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Pip Thompson and Ellie Costello. Loads of you getting in touch this morning. Thank you so much for your company. Lots of you actually quite irritated by MP's increase in pay to £91,000. Alice has been in touch. Good morning to you, saying, as far as I'm concerned, your conversation with Mr. Richard Graham, I'm giving him promotion there, did not convince me that the latest salary increase is justified. I would counter his invitation to shadow him for a working day to see how hard he works with an invitation to shadow a nurse for their 14-hour shift. Perhaps his day's chores will then be put into perspective.
Jared, good morning to you. How is their pay rise justifiable, you say? MPs say they work all hours outside of the actual sittings in Parliament. Some do, perhaps, but what about those who have a second and even third job?
It's a good point, isn't it? Because £91,000 for a lot of MPs is just the start. Lots of them have second jobs, and there's benefits involved as well for many. Paul has been in touch saying they should try and live on £200 a week. That's what I have to survive on, and it ain't funny.
I mean, look, a lot of people are attacking it. I will say something in defence of MPs, which is that many people have said over the last few years what they believe the quality of MPs has actually dropped. So by offering more money, could that actually improve the quality of MPs that they get? And also, yes, I know that their MPs' wages have increased more than yours, more than ours, but they are, supposedly, in charge of running the country.
Yes. And
does that justify it?
Yeah, and you do want the very best people in the job, which is the argument that Richard Graham was saying. You need to, entice the best people in this country, therefore you have to pay good wages. You'd earn a lot more in the City of London, wouldn't you? So I suppose that is an argument. But do let us know what you think. Does it look good? What do the optics look like to you in a cost of living situation? Do let us know. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Prince William and Prince Harry, they are brothers, of course, but they couldn't bring themselves to even share the same stage last night at their mother's tribute awards. Prince William, he spoke first.
This evening's Legacy Award is particularly special as it marks the 25th anniversary year of the Diana Award. She taught me that everyone has the potential to give something back, that everyone in need deserves a supporting hand in life. That legacy is something that both Catherine and I sought to focus on through our work.
Well then, Prince Harry gave his message by video call, but only after his brother had already left the event.
I'm seriously impressed with the work that you do, especially at the young age that you're at, and the future's yours. That's why you've been chosen, and that's why you've been given these awards. So my mum would be incredibly proud of all the work that you've done. I'm incredibly proud, and thank you for doing everything that you do.
And there's another aspect to all this, because just minutes before the ceremony began, Meghan Markle launched this lifestyle brand on Instagram.
I wish you bluebirds in the spring to give your heart a song to sing, and then a kiss, but more than this, I wish...
We're asking this morning, is that a coincidence? Or is this calculated from Meghan Markle? Do let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com. Lots to unpack here. So joining us now is royal correspondent Michael Cole. Very good to see you this morning, Michael. And should we start with the princes? Because it is really such a sad state of affairs, isn't it, that the two brothers couldn't be in the same room last night to honour their late mother.
Good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Pip. Ironic, isn't it? The Diana Awards to recognise 20 young people around the world doing things, good things in the spirit of Diana and her two sons can't even bear to be in the same room virtually, although 5,500 miles apart. She would be so upset. I promise you, she would be so upset. She loved those boys, and she always felt that they would always be there for each other. not long before she died, I was speaking to her, and Prince William was really growing quite tall. And I said to her, "You've really bred some height into the royal family." And she said, "And good looks, Michael, and good looks." She was so proud of them. And there you are, he is so tall these days. She would be devastated by this. She would knock their heads together. She wouldn't actually have believed it. And if there was ever a moment for reconciliation, it should have been at the Diana Awards. They only happen once every 2 years, so perhaps there is some way of them getting together over the next 2 years, because it is unutterably sad, and in a way it's a mercy she's not seeing it. But I don't think she would have allowed it to happen. I promise you she would not.
Do you think there would have been discussions, Michael, about whether Prince Harry could have done his message via video link, you know, behind Prince William while he was on the stage? I know that would have totally overshadowed the awards, if you like, but in a positive way, whereas at the moment the awards have been very much overshadowed in a negative way by us still talking about this estrangement. And for many people, actually hearing these words that Harry and William come out with, it just all seems very hollow.
Pip, you're absolutely right, but it was stage managed. Prince William would have insisted that it was that way. He's very, very hurt, not so much by what his brother said about him, but what he said about Catherine, and that's particularly painful at this time when she's recovering from major abdominal surgery, and of course we all wish her well. No, Prince William has taken this very, very hard indeed, and you know, most men can be put up with being insulted. My goodness, I've been insulted by experts. But what men hate is to have their driving criticised, or their wives or most significant companions criticised by other people. It's going to take a long, long time, a lot of humble pie eating and some fence mending for the reconciliation between the two brothers. It's the greatest pity. There's very few worse things you can see in the world than brothers fighting, and when it's royal brothers, it's somehow even much worse.
It really is very sad, Michael. Look, let's talk about the remarkable timing, really. Just 1 hour before the Diana Legacy Awards last night, the launch of American Riviera Orchard. It's the new lifestyle blog from Meghan Markle.
Ellie, let's call this for what it is. It's home shopping wearing a royal coronet. When the Queen was alive, the late Queen, any member of the family seeking to exploit their royal status for monetary gain was very, very criticised. Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, had to give up a PR business. When Peter Phillips, the son of Princess Anne, was advertising milk in China, or laughably, when Princess Michael of Kent opened the Happy Eater on the A3 near Guildford. I mean, they were laughed out of court, and it was not done. But this, of course, is being sold very much as Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. You will remember that when she became engaged to Prince Harry, she dropped her social influencing blog, which was called The Tig. Well, essentially, this is a revival of it to sell products. American Riviera is a trademark that they're seeking to register. American Riviera is that part of the coastline in County Santa Barbara, where they live on their Californian Camelot on the hilltop at Montecito. So they're out there flogging product, essentially, as you said earlier, expensive jam, essential things like napkin rings. We all need plenty of those, don't we? And so they're going out to make money out of their royal status. You can't go any way away from that.
But, Michael, are they actually doing anything wrong?
Well, no, I'm sure it's legally okay, but the precedent was, the convention is, that members of the royal family do not go into trade, do not trade on their royal status. Even the awarding of royal warrants is very, very strictly controlled in this country. A company that gets a royal warrant is allowed to put it on their notepaper, on the outside of their building and on their vehicles, but no other exploitation is allowed. Of course, things do change. They live in America. The same rules don't apply. It's just a question of perception. if it was being sold as Meghan Markle, but it's not. It's being sold as Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex.
Of course it is, Michael. What did you expect?
Michael Cole, really good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Well, do let us know what you make of that. gbviews@gbnews.com. But do stay with us. Still to come, on screen right now, we can see the British aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales leading a key part of the current NATO exercises in the Baltics. Up next, we're going to hear from our reporter Ray Addison, who's been speaking to the Defence Secretary. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Household energy bills will fall by £238 per year. Good news. An average of £20 a month. That's as Ofgem unveils its new energy price cap. So joining us in the studio is GB News economics and business editor Liam Halligan.
The Ofgem energy price cap, that's the regulated amount that energy suppliers are allowed to charge, will fall from £1,928 a year to £1,690. That's from April the 1st. That's a drop of about 12%. That should save the typical household 20 quid a month. Prices are cheaper than they were, but they're still very elevated by historic standards. Certainly if you're an American household, a French household, even a Spanish or an Italian household, you're paying a lot less for your electricity and your energy in general than you are here in the UK. The energy companies have been a bit tricksy with the government because while they are lowering the energy price cap and the headlines are, well, your energy bills are coming down, blah, 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 the energy providers have actually chiselled out from Ofgem the permission to charge households an extra £2.33 a month on average. And the energy companies say that is money which they need, the energy companies, in order to support households who have got big debts on their energy bills. I don't know about you, but whenever I talk to people down the pub about energy bills, many of them say, well, the energy company's got like £2,000 of my money and it won't give it back to me. What's going on here? So there are lots of concerns about customer balances with energy companies, and it's also worth saying that as part of this announcement, the bit that no one will notice is that the energy companies are being able to charge all households to try and flatter the energy companies' balance sheets, which to me, on first reading, seems a bit odd.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, welcome back. The time is 10:20. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Pip Thompson and me, Ellie Costello.
The Royal Air Force has launched a major mission to find Russian cyber hackers who jammed a plane carrying the Defence Secretary Grant Shapps.
Yes, lasting 30 minutes, the attack took out one of the primary navigation systems as the RAF jet flew close to the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad in the Baltic Sea.
This took place just after GB News reporter Ray Addison was given exclusive access to a NATO training exercise in Poland.
They move from room to room. Breaching. Clearing. These NATO soldiers may not speak the same language, but they are fluent in the art of urban warfare, working together to neutralise the enemy. And as the tip of the spear, they're ready to roll against Russia in a matter of hours. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Hawes is in command.
My major observation is soldiers are soldiers, and no matter what language they speak, we all understand the NATO drills that we have to go through, and we've been able to, after a very short period of practice, execute some very complex operations.
This is just the latest exercise involving British troops. Defence Secretary Grant Shapps is here to show his support.
I would say back home most people are unaware of this enormous NATO exercise. Not just large, the biggest since the Cold War.
20,000 are taking part in Operation Steadfast Defender, with another 70,000 from all 32 NATO allies. It's designed to send a very clear message to the Russian president. Don't push us too far.
Putin's endgame is to carry on expanding Russia. You don't have to take my word for it. It's what he's said himself many times. NATO isn't trying to expand into other people's territory. We are simply here to defend our values of freedom and sovereignty and democracy. We should be proud of what these guys have been doing here, making sure we can exercise together, most importantly of all, sending a very clear signal to Putin or any other despotic leader that we will stand up for ourselves and don't try it on.
With Russia's war in Ukraine now in its third year, the Defence Secretary is urging Western allies not to get fatigued, but to treat Putin's ongoing invasion as a wake-up call, a message that we must have the resolve to spend what is required on defence. If not, it will only embolden those who may wish to test our resolve. Meanwhile, these NATO forces stand ready to deploy within 48 hours.
Though no NATO country wants war, Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine has reminded the West that it can never show weakness. And there is certainly strength in numbers. Ray Addison, GB News.
We just have had some breaking news in the past few moments that's related to that story. The Armed Forces Minister James Heappey has announced he will not be standing as a candidate at the next general election. He was first elected in 2015. He said the decision to not stand in the next general election is painful. He said it's time to step away from politics, prioritise my family and pursue a different career. He's become the 62nd Conservative MP to confirm they will not be standing at the next general election.
And there are reports, quotes at the Times, that James Heappey had been on what they call resignation watch after telling colleagues privately that he was unhappy about the level of defence spending. Now, that has been an ongoing issue. We're joined by former Special Advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley and political commentator Emma Webb. Charlie, let's just get your reaction to James Heappey standing down, unhappy about the level of defence spending, maybe unhappy about other things as well. They just keep on coming. We have Brandon Lewis, former Northern Ireland Secretary, announcing he wouldn't stand yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear that, because I think James has been a brilliant Member of Parliament. He's been a brilliant Armed Forces Minister, as is Brandon Lewis. It comes at a time where I think Grant Shapps was encouraging an increase in defence spending to at least 3% GDP. That was something that happened earlier on in the week. So it's certainly a conversation amongst those that are interested in defence spending, those that are in the MOD, and something that the Chancellor will, I'm sure, have to listen to when it comes to the next budget. James
Heappey has a military background, so many people always thought how well suited to the role he was because of that.
Exactly so. And sometimes there are people who it's better to be a fresh pair of eyes and have no connection at all to the background, so you can actually challenge the sector a bit more. But he got it right from day one as someone that has been trained, someone that has served in the military. He knew exactly what he was doing when it came to protecting those on the front line, when he was going out to he would have gone to exercises that you were just showing that Ray Addison was taking part in. So I'm sorry to see James go, but I'm sure for the other 61 MPs, Conservative Party MPs, that have said that they're standing down, that will be a combination of personal reasons, just length of service, time to move on. But again, another Conservative MP announces that they are no longer going to stand at the next general election.
It's becoming all too familiar, isn't it, Emma? These sorts of statements from MPs. The 62nd Conservative MP now to stand down.
You do get the feeling that there are probably even more than those who have already decided to step down, who are MPs who are just as disappointed and feel just as let down with the leadership of the party as the members of the Conservative Party, but also the electorate more generally, people who voted for them in 2019. I think there are 2 points to be made here, and the first is obviously on the defence spending. I think that I can completely understand his frustrations there, and it's, as we've just seen today with what happened with Grant Shapps on his trip there, with his plane being jammed by the Russians. We obviously, it seems like a no-brainer to the British public that we need to be spending more on defence. And so I think many people will sympathise with his reasons for stepping down, both personal and professional.
Well, also we should note that his constituency, Wells, was held by the Tories at the 2019 election, but his majority was less than 10,000. Well, that's not a safe seat.
I imagine that a lot of these MPs are also stepping down in preparation for the bloodbath that is to come. And it's almost... I was in Westminster the other day, and you see Conservative MPs milling around, and you do wonder what's going on inside their heads, because... particularly amongst the leadership of the party, you know, they're hemorrhaging, and Rishi doesn't seem to be, you know, responding in an appropriate way, I don't think.
And he ain't having an election on May the 2nd.
No, quite.
No, well. Should we take a quick look at this civil servant story, Charlie? Apparently they're a bit stressed about going back into the office twice a week.
Well, yes, that is exactly it. And I'm sure your viewers will be up in arms at the prospect of, you know, the government's official Office of National Statistics, the official watchdog which publishes all these stats and holds the government to account sometimes when it might be a little bit loose over the numbers of whether it's migration figures or whether it's the economy or anything like that. So the idea that those people who are working on those statistics are still able to work from home and are balloting a strike action, having been asked by their bosses to come to the office, as you say, twice a week, I think will be bizarre, alarming, and to most of your viewers.
More to it than this, though. Balloting purely on the basis of having to go into the office. I mean, I'm sorry. If that's the case, then blooming heck. Millions of people are going to be balloting for strike action wherever they work.
Well, they will, and I think, you know, it's just testament to still... You know, in a post-COVID world, people are still not going back to the office. People are still able to, I think, negotiate with their bosses to work from home. You know, for me, it comes down to productivity. So if the output is still there, and if actually you're delivering, and you know, there are cases where actually people do benefit from having a little bit more flexibility because of childcare costs, or being able to, you know, drop the kids off and then come back, you know, and then work a bit later in the evening from the kitchen at home. Whatever it is, as long as the productivity is there and the employers are happy, then there's a case for it. But I think when you are the government's official watchdog, you probably would rather have those civil servants in the office more often than not.
I think, Emma, many people would just be flabbergasted that the ONS was entirely remote, that nobody was in the office 5 days a week.
Yeah, so some of these employees, according to this report, they had... One of the reasons why they're angry is because they had been employed on the understanding that they could work from home.
Well, do they have a point then in that case?
So for those people, I do think that they have a point if there was an understanding when they took the job that job would be remote. However, as a nation, our productivity is absolutely dire. And it won't just be the ONS. I mean, I know from my own personal experience, I know people who have companies who haven't been able to get their employees to come back to work, and they have had a real fight on their hands to try, because the businesses are failing as a result of this. HS2 is another example of this. So there are so many examples across the board. Ministers really trying to push to get people back into the office, because the ONS is one thing, but let's be frank, you can't run a country from your kitchen table. You just can't do it. And so I think, you know, I'm in favour of flexible working. I think it's good for families to have an element of flexible working. I think if you've been employed on the understanding that you have that flexibility, that's one thing. But we, as a nation, have to actually muck in and realise the pandemic is over, and you need to be putting the company
the companies need, because, you know, any company is not, there'll be many businesses that will fail without their employees coming into the office.
But there are companies who've seen their productivity increase because their employees aren't spending 3 hours every day sitting on a train.
Yeah, it depends on
commuting.
the company. It depends on the company. So I'm not against flexible working, but I do think that there are some jobs that you just simply cannot do from home. And employers are absolutely within their rights. With the ONS, for those who had previously been working there and who were refusing to come into the office, if that was their original contract and it was an exception for them to be working from home, I frankly think they should be allowed to fire them.
OK. Let us know what you think about that. Controversial. gbviews@gbnews.com. Emma, Charlie, thank you very much indeed. You're with us in the next hour as well. Still to come, have you heard of Scissor? I don't know if it's Scissor or SZA. If you know that,
Look at
also
me.
let us know. Well, Scissor and Dua Lipa, well, they are headlining one of the biggest festivals in the world, Glastonbury.
We're talking about that very shortly. First, it's time for your headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister has suffered another blow with another Tory MP announcing he won't run at the next general election. James Heappey will also resign as Armed Forces Minister. GB News understands the decision is not over defence spending. Citing personal reasons, he says he wants to prioritise his family and pursue a different career. More than 60 Tory MPs have now announced they won't stand during the general election, as speculation continues to mount over when the vote will be held. The Prime Minister has ruled out the 2nd of May as a possible date. Millions of pounds worth of drugs and 8 XL bullies have been seized during county lines raids. Hundreds of weapons were also found, including Rambo knives and machetes. Every police force across the country took part in the raids last week, resulting in more than 1,800 arrests. Phone lines used to distribute drugs from cities to towns and villages were also shut down. Private firms are issuing an average of more than 35,000 parking tickets to drivers every day amid a wait for the government to regulate the industry. Analysis from the RAC found 9.7 million tickets were issued to drivers in Britain between April and December last year, with each ticket potentially costing drivers up to £100. The parking bill received royal assent 5 years ago. And the Duke of Sussex and Prince of Wales made separate addresses honouring their mother at the Diana Legacy Awards last night. At the charity's 25th anniversary, Prince William said his mother taught him that everyone has the potential to give something back. He told the audience that he and his wife have sought to focus on Diana's legacy through their work. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts.
For stunning gold and silver coins you'll always value, Rosland Gold proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.2756 and €1.1704. The price of gold is £1,701.81 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 7,747 points.
Rosland Gold proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
You're with Britain's Newsroom. Good morning. Do stay with us. Very shortly, we're going to be talking to a man who has worked with the likes of U2, Cat Stevens and Neil Diamond about the very, what some are saying, underwhelming Glastonbury lineup.
I think that's fair to say, don't you?
It's a bit poppy, is
It
one
is
of
a
the
bit poppy.
descriptions.
Yes. Dua Lipa. Shania Twain, that's a good one. Shania Twain, I go for that.
But no Madonna. And there was a lot of talk that Madonna could be headlining.
And Taylor Swift, so that was a real loss. If
you got your ticket back in the autumn, you might be a little bit disappointed this morning. Let us know what you think.
I'd be asking for a refund. Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com.
But first, in a new GB News series, Innovation Britain, we're looking at the success of British manufacturing around the country.
One of the
biggest issues we're facing today in the manufacturing and engineering sectors is the fact that there's a skills shortage and a skills gap. But there's companies out there like this one that are doing something about it. So, Paul, what's happening here?
Well, here at Income Training, we deliver engineering and manufacturing apprenticeships. So we start people in their engineering career, like the people we see behind us today. And this year we've had our biggest intake ever of people going into engineering and manufacturing on an apprenticeship to shape their future.
So how did we get into this situation in the first place?
It's a result of generations of people not coming into the sector. We're trying to do something about that. We're trying to show everyone that engineering manufacture is a great career and apprenticeship is a great route into that career.
And how are you doing this?
What we're doing at Incom is inspiring young people to come into the sector. There's loads of companies, big and small, within the UK, and these people are, whether they want to use their brain or use their hands, they're going into careers that'll last them a lifetime.
And it's not just apprenticeships, is it?
It's not, no. So we are bridging skills gaps through a variety of programmes. Last year we launched the first ever UK Tooling Academy in partnership with Grandhour, a Birmingham-based company, and that's for bringing in people who are already engineers to go from here to here through our full-time programme.
But you're also upskilling too, aren't you?
We are. We launched the UK's first ever Tooling Academy at our other site. That is about upskilling existing engineers in the tooling sector to go from here to here through a 20-week full-time programme.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
So after his mad dash to see his father last week, Prince Harry predictably went on TV to talk about it. He gave his first interview to Good Morning America, whilst apparently being filmed by a crew that were doing a documentary on the Invictus Games. He didn't disclose his father's diagnosis, but frankly, even the fact that he was on TV talking about it was concerning. No wonder they're keeping him at arm's length. This is what he said.
How did you get the news that the King was ill?
I spoke to him.
And what did you do next?
I jumped on a plane and went to go and see him as soon as I could.
How was that visit for you emotionally?
Look, I love my family. The fact that I was able to get on a plane and go and see him and spend any time with him, I'm grateful for that.
An illness in the family can have a galvanizing or sort of reunifying effect for a family.
Absolutely.
Is that possible in this case?
Yeah, I'm sure. Throughout all these families, I see it on a day-to-day basis. The strength of the family unit coming together.
He also said that he loves his family, but then he said that he had his own family in America. So which family does he love? The late Queen's last few years of life were marred with accusations of racism, which Harry later backtracked on, claiming that they hadn't actually used the word, so inadvertently admitting to gaslighting us all. But the Sussex's stock is falling in the States, and the only thing that makes them interesting is their proximity to the royal family. And now the King is ill, Harry has even offered to muck in and take on official duties to help his father. Look, I want to see reconciliation and love and joy, but I'm afraid Meghan has yet to even speak to her father as far as we know, and Harry didn't apparently even reach out to his brother. Whilst his dad might fall for it, I doubt William will be as soft. Good luck with that, Harry.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with myself and Pip. Now, let us know what you make of this, because after months of speculation, the lineup to one of the biggest festivals in the world, Glastonbury, is out.
It has been branded by some people, you might not agree, but it's been branded as the worst ever yet.
Yes, well, we're going to leave this lineup to be described to you by the artist manager Nick Stewart, who has worked with the likes of U2, Cat Stevens and Neil Diamond. So he knows his talent. Very good morning to you, Nick. Good to see you. What do you make of this lineup? And most importantly, who's on it, for those who don't know?
Good morning, ladies. It's first of all, it's a young pop lineup. Friday night headliner Dua Lipa, probably at the outstanding English pop act there is, lauded at the Brits. LCD Sound System play, PJ Harvey play. Saturday night, the big night, the Evis' favourite band, Coldplay, are going to headline with Little Sims supporting that with other acts as well. 95 acts announced so far, by the way. You can find all the details on the website. The one that's really interesting is Sunday. Janelle Monáe, Burna Boy and SZA. And I'm wondering how many people immediately know or who all those acts are. The problem became apparent that Emily had decided to go for Emily Evis had decided to go for two female acts after last year. I believe Madonna was asked. I'm not going to speculate or even come to what happened there, but Madonna is not there. So they went for SZA. Her name is Solani Imani Rowe. SZA, who's a major American hip-hop R&B act. Burna Boy is Afro-pop. And Janelle Monáe made one of the best pop albums of last year, The Age of...
OK, so Nick, there's quite a lot of artists on there. Are you underwhelmed by it? If you'd have bought your Glastonbury tickets in the autumn, how would you be feeling today about that lineup?
The lineup always reflects the state of the market. That's the first thing. You can't just conjure up a whole lot of acts that you want to be there who've in the past been there. I'm just going to throw 3 or 4 at you. You know, that James aren't there, Elbow aren't there, Cast aren't there, The Coral, Inhaler, Shed 7. These are festival-like bands. They're not there. The market at the moment is young, pop and female, and this Glastonbury lineup very much reflects that. I mean,
is there anything wrong? I mean, because what I'm reading almost seems to be a criticism about it being poppy. I mean, somebody wrote, it's like the excitable soundtrack to a children's birthday party, which made me laugh. But is there anything wrong with it being poppy?
Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing at all. The artists that are going to perform there, I mean, Coldplay aren't exactly a young artist, but the young female ones reflect what people want to see and what are being bought. I'm all for it. I mean, I'm absolutely... I hate the idea of people turning around saying Glastonbury is the preserve of old hippies who turn out to see... No, it reflects the state of the market. Full marks to the Evises for producing it. After all, two of my favourite bands, The National and Nothing But Thieves, they're both there playing. In fact, I think The National will be up against SZA on Sunday night. It's actually quite well, it's better balanced than it looks. Just one more point, there may be some more announcements to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. There could be some more surprises, although, fortunately, I'm not sure Madonna is amongst them. But Nick, did any of your acts headline Glastonbury?
Yes, well, I had U2, of course, but then I was looking after their catalogue then rather than anything else. I was very proud to have Neil Diamond playing on the legend spot, and the legend spot this year is Shania Twain. Well, you can't get a bigger country legend.
And she is a legend, to be fair.
I mean, she'll be brilliant. I think people are being unnecessarily negative about this. My glass tends to be a bit half full, but I like the idea that these new artists, newish artists, have come along. It may well be that people will check out SZA. It's spelled S-Z-A, pronounced SZA. Burna Boy's African pop will be amazing. There is actually a K-pop band, 17, who'll be appearing as well. So, you know, they've spread it out a bit, and they've got there'll be a much younger audience there.
Yeah, an eclectic mix, you might say. Just before we let you go, Nick, if you were in charge, if you were running Glastonbury this year, who would you want headlining?
Well, it sounds a bit obvious to say the Rolling Stones, but of course, after that brilliant album they did last year,
that would be a great choice.
I would have loved to have seen the Rolling Stones. But don't forget, I'm an old white rocker, so I would say that, wouldn't I?
I think that would be a very popular choice, actually, Nick.
Well, I hope so. I'd love to have seen Donna. And of course, you two have just finished a long stretch of dates in the Sphere in Las Vegas, so they'd be match fit and they'd be pretty good as well. Let's hope we see them before too long.
Yeah. And what is it about Glastonbury that all the acts always say it's almost the pinnacle of their career to perform there? What is it about the festival?
It's one of the sort of great summer gatherings of young and the not so young to see what's going on in music, rejoice in what's going on in music, see some stars they wouldn't necessarily see, you know, in Manchester, Liverpool, or London in medium-sized.
But why is it so important to the artist as well? You know, I remember Kylie once talked about it, and she was overwhelmed by the experience of performing there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember Neil Diamond saying he did Hyde Park. He did Hyde Park for Radio 2, and then he did this, and he did say this was his great thing. And I know that Yusuf Cat Stevens last year was very, very delighted to be asked to do it. So you're treading in the footsteps of giants. You are a giant yourself if you're doing some of them, but you are treading in the footsteps of giants and heroes. It's a wonderful. It goes all the way back, and all the great acts have played there. So it's like not quite having Woodstock every year, but it's close.
Nick Stewart, really good to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we're going to be talking about that breaking news in the last few minutes. The Armed Forces Minister, James Heappey, will step down at the next general election. It's yet another headache for the Prime Minister. Stay with us on Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning. Here's your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It has been a pretty mild week, but we're actually likely to see a touch of frost in some places tonight. Before then, though, it's a showery day for many of us. Perhaps some more persistent rain across parts of southern Scotland, northern England, but that will clear away towards the east as we go through the day. Elsewhere, some bright or sunny spells, but also quite a few showers, and some of these could turn heavy, possibly even thundery down towards the southeast. It is still mild at the moment, temperatures reaching highs of around 15 or 16 Celsius, so well above average for the time of year, but cooler towards the north. As we go later on, we are actually going to see a ridge of high pressure building. That's going to quieten our weather down. So most of the showers will ease and die out and clear away towards the east. And so it's going to turn mostly dry overnight, and we will have some clear skies. As a result, we're going to see temperatures taking a bit of a dip. Most places turning a bit chilly. Across some northern parts, we could see a touch of frost as temperatures fall a little bit below freezing in prone spots. So we wake up Saturday morning, a chilly but mostly fine start, maybe a few pockets of fog around, staying generally dry with a decent amount of sunshine towards the north and east, but across southern and western parts here, clouds going to push its way in, some outbreaks of rain initially, turning heavier as we go through the afternoon. Temperatures will pick up after a chilly start, so again we're likely to see highs in the mid-teens Celsius. Rain will push through as we go through Saturday night into Sunday, but once that clears, Sunday's looking mostly dry for many of us. Bye-bye.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Hello, welcome back. We want to delve into the latest political news this morning with our political editor, Chris Hope. Good morning, Christopher. And this is the breaking news in the last half hour or so that the Armed Forces Minister, James Heappey, has announced that he is standing down at the next election. What's that now, Chris? 60-odd Tory MPs, Rishi Sunak?
Yep.
He needs to take more paracetamol today, doesn't he?
Yes, and morning both. Yeah, 61 now quitting. 1 in 6 Tory MPs elected in 2019 will be off and leaving politics. The difference here, of course, is that this election in 2024 is the first organised one since 2015. The ones in 17 and 19 were surprise elections, so MPs can plan for their future more. That's why you're seeing so many of them. But also, I've been presenting my podcast called Choppers Politics Podcast, which has been had Holly Valance as the guest we've had there. She's interesting. She is sprightly and an interesting right-wing voice in the celeb world. Here's what she had to say to me.
I think crime's out of control. All of us have been robbed on King's Road in our area. Yep.
What happened when you were robbed?
I just had my phone taken out of the pram, stealing off a mum with her baby in the pram. Is pretty low stuff. No, I wasn't hurt, fortunately. But yeah, I've had friends get belted for their phones and watches and home raids and trying to kick in doors. And it's
in Chelsea?
Yeah, particularly in Chelsea, because they know people are walking around with probably a nice watch on.
Yeah, and the police are helpful.
They rob me, they're in for a nasty surprise. I'm usually in a Swatch down the street. No offence to Swatch.
And what do the police do? Are they helpful?
They don't really turn up. You can call them, but I don't ever see a bobby. It's like kids point and stare now when you see a policeman on the street.
Are you a backer of the Tories or Reform? Where are you politically?
So last time I voted Conservatives. Mm-hmm. Next time I'll be voting Reform.
Really?
Yeah.
You're
well, I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Mm. And I'm sure as hell not going to Labour.
Really, really interesting, Chopper, to actually see a pop star come out with right-wing views and talk about them so publicly. Really, really interesting stuff. Thank you so much. Really good to see you this morning. You can get that podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on the GB News website as well. Well, in reply, a spokesperson for the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has said this was clearly a frightening and distressing experience for Holly Valance. While homicides, gun crime and the number of young people being injured with knives have all fallen since 2016, violent crime remains too high. There is much more to do, and the Mayor is determined to continue making progress by supporting the police.
Do stay with us here on Britain's Newsroom. We're back with you very shortly.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. Here's your GB News weather forecast in association with the Met Office. Many of us are at risk of seeing some showers and they could be a bit thundery in some places, but there will be some sunshine in between. At the moment, an area of low pressure just to the northeast of the UK is bringing the focus of a bit more persistent rain across parts of southern Scotland and perhaps into northern England, but that is going to ease and clear away as we go through the day. Otherwise, and like I said, for many of us, the risk of some showers, and these could turn heavy, perhaps even thundery across southern parts, though the risk of thunder pushes into East Anglia as we go through the afternoon. Some sunny spells in between the showers, and it is going to be mild, temperatures reaching highs around 15, 16, possibly even 17 Celsius towards the south, but watch out for some blustery winds. Later on, we will see most of those showers easing and clearing away towards the east, with some clearer skies developing for many of us and a bit of a northerly wind too. As a result, temperatures are going to drop. It's going to be markedly chillier than some recent nights. Across northern parts, we could see a touch of frost, and even elsewhere, a few pockets of fog are possible first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, after a chilly start, but mostly fine one for much of the country, holding on to the decent blue skies across northern and eastern parts for a good chunk of the day. Further south and west, though, turning cloudier with outbreaks of rain pushing their way in, the rain turning heavier and more persistent across Northern Ireland later. After a chilly start, temperatures are going to rise, so it should turn pretty mild by the afternoon. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've got cash, treats and a spring shopping spree to be won in a great British giveaway. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash. Plus there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinions.
How decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 a.m. on Friday, the 15th of March. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Pip Thompson and me, Ellie Costello.
Meghan Markle launches a new lifestyle brand moments before Prince William takes to the stage to honour his mother, Princess Diana, last night. A coincidence, or was it a calculated move?
Another Tory resignation. Armed Forces Minister James Heappey says he'll stand down at the next general election, joining more than 60 other Tory MPs. We're asking this morning, is Rishi Sunak in trouble?
MPs' salaries are to increase by 5.5% next month, taking their yearly wage to over £90,000. Does your local MP deserve that?
Drivers are being handed, on average, more than 35,000 parking tickets by private companies every single day in Britain.
Cheltenham Gold Cup, one of the biggest races of the season, takes place today on the last day of the festival. And our reporter, Jack Carson, is there looking very dapper.
And it's Gold Cup Day here at Cheltenham, the festival celebrating 100 years. The people are starting to arrive. I'll have all of the details a little bit later on.
Loving the hat there, Jack. And I hope you get lucky at the races today. We're dressed like we're going to get lucky. Well, not like that.
Some of you are loving our colours. Ellie?
You know,
what did you just say?
I don't know. Let's pretend that never happened. But St Patrick's Day, and we're very in sync because we're both wearing green, ready for the weekend.
Mint and olive.
Mint and
olive.
olive.
Mint.
Olive and mint, yes, or sage, it was described as this morning, but I'm going to go with olive. Olive and mint, it should be there on the strap, I
Or
think.
a stuffed olive, as
or
you
a
called
stuffed olive, that's how I was
earlier.
feeling this morning. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling this morning.
OK, this is getting delirious now. Let's go to our news headlines and get serious. Here's Tatiana.
Good morning. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister has suffered a blow with another Tory MP announcing he won't run at the next general election. James Heappey is also expected to resign as Armed Forces Minister by the end of this month. GB News understands the decision is not over defence spending. Citing personal reasons, Mr Heappey says he's standing down to prioritise his family and to pursue a different career. More than 60 Tory MPs have now announced they're leaving the Commons as speculation continues to mount over when the general election will be held. The Prime Minister has ruled out the 2nd of May. Lib Dems leader Sir Ed Davey has accused him of running scared.
I think people are really fed up at this Conservative government and want to see the back of it. And the elections can't come quick enough for the Liberal Democrats and I think the people of our country. When those elections come, whenever Rishi Sunak decides to go to the palace, Liberal Democrats are ready. We've got fantastic candidates who are local champions in their areas. We're campaigning on things like the NHS and the need to tackle the crisis there, the cost of living and things like sewage.
Millions of pounds worth of drugs and 8 XL bullies have been seized during county lines raids. Hundreds of weapons were also found, including Rambo knives and machetes. Every police force across the country took part in the raids last week, resulting in more than 1,800 arrests. Phone lines used to distribute drugs from cities to towns and villages were also shut down. Former Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville told GB News the crackdown still doesn't solve the wider problem.
Drugs trade is like the Greek story of the Hydra. You cut one head off and 2 more grow in its place. And what's really frightening with county lines is how they use children. And the reason they use children is because the police were very successful with undercover officers who are obviously adults. And so the drug dealers don't trust anybody they don't know who's an adult, but they well know that the police are not allowed to use children as some kind of undercover agent.
The Defence Secretary has warned Russia's president not to try it on while he was on a NATO visit in Eastern Europe. GB News has been given exclusive access to a training exercise in Poland where British forces are working with their allies preparing for any possible attack by Russia. It's part of Steadfast Defender, the largest military exercise since the Cold War. Grant Sharp says NATO allies are ready and willing to protect themselves from any threat.
This exercise is designed to make sure that we can operate with other countries like Poland and be interoperable. Most importantly of all, sending a very clear signal to Putin or any other despotic leader that we will stand up for ourselves and don't try it on.
Meanwhile, voting's underway in Russia to elect the country's next president. Ballots are being cast over 3 days, even though Vladimir Putin is all but certain to win. He appealed to voters just yesterday, including in annexed parts of Ukraine, to be united in determining his country's future. Ukraine says any Russian vote in the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson regions will be void. Hamas is said to be moving towards a truce deal, but Israel's Prime Minister says the terror group's list of demands are unrealistic. Thousands of people staged a demonstration in Tel Aviv last night, demanding the immediate release of hostages from Gaza. According to news agency Reuters, Hamas has presented a ceasefire proposal which includes releasing some Israeli women, children and the elderly in exchange for the freedom of Palestinian prisoners, 100 of which are currently serving life sentences. Private firms are issuing an average of more than 35,000 parking tickets to drivers every day amid a wait for the government to regulate the industry. Analysis from motoring company RAC says many drivers could feel badly let down by the government's delay in introducing a code of conduct. It found 9.7 million tickets were issued to drivers in Britain between April and December last year, with each ticket potentially costing drivers up to £100. The parking bill received royal assent 5 years ago. And the Duke of Sussex and Prince of Wales made separate addresses honouring their mother at the Diana Legacy Awards last night. At the charity's 25th anniversary, the Prince said his mother taught him that everyone has the potential to give something back. He told the audience that he and his wife, the Princess of Wales, have sought to focus on Diana's legacy through their work. Prince William attended the event in person while the Duke of Sussex dialed in virtually from California.
I am seriously impressed with the work that you do, especially at the young age that you're at. And the future's yours, right? And you're helping to shape that future. That's why you've been chosen, and that's why you've been given these awards. So my mum would be incredibly proud of all the work that you've done. I'm incredibly proud, and thank you for doing everything that you do.
For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Pip and Ellie.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Pip and Ellie. It is 11:08. Thank you for all your thoughts and comments that are flying in this morning. And one topic, apart from MP's pay, that has got you going, is this issue about civil servants working from home, civil servants who are threatening to go on strike for being made to go into the office.
Twice a week. Yes, instead of full-time working from home. Apparently, they're very stressed. Selina says, I totally agree with Emma Webb. If staff refuse to go into the office, they should be sacked. There will be plenty willing to do their jobs.
But Nikki says there are many office jobs that can be done completely satisfactorily, remotely. What it's allowed is largely mothers to keep a full-time career, which is absolutely necessary in this economic climate. Commuters spend too long travelling into London to work and makes it impossible to collect children from childcare at the appropriate time.
Colin's been in touch. Good morning to you, Colin, saying anyone running a company would sack these morons and start again. I say start the sackings now. They're not doing their jobs and they should not be trying to run the country. The first part of getting rid of government waste. Just sack the lot, says Colin. Don't mince your words, no.
Lynn, good morning. You believe that things should go back to the way they were before the pandemic. All this working from home is absolutely ridiculous, in particular with GPs, you believe. I mean, the pandemic was, what, almost 4 years ago? Wasn't it? So I think there is a point, though, isn't there, that it depends what the job is.
Yes.
And there are jobs that can be done very easily from home.
I suppose it does depend, which is the point that Emma Webb also made. It does depend on what promises they were made when they got that job. If they were told it was going to be a remote position and they moved to a certain area or put the children in certain schools because of that, you can see why they might have a point.
And then you have that situation with air traffic control chaos last summer, where that report yesterday found that actually working from home made that chaos even worse. So keep your thoughts coming in. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Now, unfortunately, Prince William and Prince Harry were not sharing the stage last night at their mum's tribute awards in London. Prince William gave his message at the Diana Legacy Awards last night.
This evening's Legacy Award is particularly special as it marks the 25th anniversary year of the Diana Award. She taught me that everyone has the potential to give something back. that everyone in need deserves a supporting hand in life. That legacy is something that both Catherine and I sought to focus on through our work.
Prince Harry gave his message via video call, but he did it only after his older brother had already left.
I'm seriously impressed with the work that you do, especially at the young age that you're at. And the future's yours. That's why you've been chosen, and that's why you've been given these awards. So my mum would be incredibly proud of all the work that you've done. I'm incredibly proud, and thank you for doing everything that you do.
Well, just 1 hour before the ceremony began, Meghan Markle launched her new lifestyle brand on Instagram.
I wish you bluebirds in the spring to give your heart a song to sing, and then a kiss, but more than this.
Coincidence or calculated from Meghan? That is the question we're asking you this morning. Do let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com. But lots to unpack there. So joining us now in the studio. Actually, no, she's not. She's down the line, I'm afraid. As well.
But she's invisible.
I'd say you've made a very quick move here. But Helena, very good to see you again. Lovely to have you with us this morning.
Hi.
Should we start with the princes? Because it is such a shame, isn't it? You hear them talking there. Both of their messages at the Diana Legacy Award last night was how proud she would be of everybody. But would she be proud of her two sons who aren't even able to appear on the same stage together?
Oh, I have different thoughts about it, I have to say, because if you think about it, if Prince William had have been there when Prince Harry was talking online, can you imagine all cameras would have been on him, every little move would have been monitored. So actually, from a PR point of view, I think it was the right thing to do, because there's so much animosity between them that it's just not going to work. But yes, I agree, a complete shame, because we would like to see them taking small steps towards talking, and getting back together in some shape or form. But, Prince William, he delivered such a heartwarming speech at this prize ceremony. And the whole ethos as well is obviously to give out these prizes to these wonderful young people. But this is also Diana's legacy. And the 25th anniversary of the charity. So, and reflecting everything about Princess Diana. And I just feel that everything that happened, does it surprise me that Meghan Markle released her brand at a time which was completely inappropriate? It absolutely doesn't. And this was obviously not something that was just a mistake. This was, in my eyes, absolutely planned. And I think it's just such a shame because, if you think about it, to the boys, Princess Diana means everything to them. And this is her legacy. So to sort of stamp on that, it's almost quite cutthroat. I really think so. And I know there were other things going on. They were giving out awards at the same time. It's just such a shame. And actually, it's not a great look. I know that Meghan Markle and Prince William, they've been trying to get a UK publicist to try and help their brand, to try and bring, make the UK, people in the UK like them more. Well, absolutely, this is not the way forward. The people in Britain are not going to take kindly to this, the majority of people, because this is not all about them at the time. I mean, the one good thing I would say is great that Meghan's now working on something and is obviously going to throw her heart into it. It looks like it's been shot well, and she is going to. One thing I would say, I can't see her coming to the UK anytime soon, because obviously she's doing the cookery show and everything.
Yeah.
But
Helena,
what a shame.
I'm just looking now. I mean, already it has got 345,000 Instagram followers.
Of course.
So it's that's in only 24 hours. This business venture of hers could well be a success.
I get it, and there's nothing wrong with working towards a success. They have to work, they have to keep things going. I have to say I'm quite surprised at it being also attached to a cookery programme. It does seem a strange one for her to go into. I didn't think that was her speciality.
What did you think of the Instagram video she's posted with that soundtrack, isn't it, by Nancy Wilson? I Wish You Love. I mean, Some people say it's absolutely nauseating.
It is slightly, to be quite honest, but it's been shot well, and I think from that point of view, I've got to give some credence there. But I mean, to me, she's trying to copy Gwyneth's goop. I think that's where it's going to lead. At the moment, it seems a lot about chutneys and marmalades and knives and forks and various things like that, which is quite odd. But this is obviously going to take quite a bit of time. But I just think, what a shame, to launch it at that time. She could have done it any other time. She would still get the followers. It will still do well, I'm sure.
Is there not space for both of them, though, in the media landscape? Was there not space for both the awards and her launch?
There is space, of course, but why do it at a time when Prince William, more or less, is just there, about to get there to give his speech, which was fabulous. And this, let's not forget, was about Diana's memory, Princess Diana's memory, and her legacy. And it's almost like, Harry, along with Meghan, have sort of thrust themselves almost, to take that. And I think that's not fair, really. I think that it could have been planned more appropriately. And I'm sure, from a PR point of view, in the sense of wanting the great British public to love them, which is what they want, hence the reason they want a UK publicist, this is not the best move, in my eyes. This is just my opinion. But,
and even managed to overshadow her own husband last night, which might make you think it was a coincidence rather than calculated. You wouldn't want to think she'd want to do that. But Helena Chard, thank you so much. Really good to see you this morning.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Pip.
Still to come here on Britain's Newsroom, are you one of the tens of thousands who've been slapped with a parking fine every day? The shocking truth about that next.
Yes, you're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. Every night from 11 p.m.
Welcome back to Headliners. And Paul, we're going to get straight into Monday's mail for some good old-fashioned, traditional male breastfeeding.
Yeah. To answer the question, what is the latest woke hell, Josh? Row as hospitals say hormone-filled milk from trans women who were born male is just as good for a baby as the real thing. It's possible for men, if they pump themselves full of estrogen, to grow larger breast tissue, and they often do. If
or you just eat lots of burgers.
Exhibit A. And once you've done that, it is actually then possible to express or lactate a liquid. Okay. If to that liquid you then add another load of pills, medication, chemicals, whatever, that lactation juice can be fed to a baby.
We don't really... This is not for the sake of the baby. The baby has no benefits from this whatsoever. The studies are very weak on it. It's a bit worrying because, when hospitals started indulging in homeopathy and having, the NHS had homeopathic hospitals, that was worrying because they're supposed to be a trusted authority. And before saying something like this, there should be an awful lot of study done.
I want to shame this hospital. This is
whether it's necessary.
University Hospital Sussex NHS Foundation Trust. That's who it is. And they have written one of the stupidest sentences that I have read aloud in the 2 years that I've been privileged to do this show. It says, the term human milk is meant to be neutral and not gender biased.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Oh, my God, we're laughing at you.
I mean, and as someone says here, babies are not props. And that's the scary thing. And when we're not focusing primarily on the health of a baby.
No, but the feeling of a person doing it rather than... It's a bit of an odd way to go, isn't it? So...
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11:21. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Pip Thompson and Ellie Costello. Or mint and olive, whatever you'd like to call us this morning.
John Andrews, good morning to you. Although I don't know whether I should say good morning because you've called us avocado and mushy peas.
Oh.
Thanks very much, John.
Who's the avocado in this blend?
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
You're a humbug, as Eamon described, and that is perfectly described, I think. A mint humbug.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for all your comments. As you can tell, we like your comments on everything, even our dress code. Now, we are joined this morning by a former advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley, and political commentator Emma Webb. We're coming to you in a second, but first, Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, he's been asked by reporters in the last few minutes about reports of another £5 million donation from Frank Hester. Here's what he has to say.
Well, we follow all the right procedures when it comes to declaring our donations, and when the time is right, we will declare any donations that we've received recently.
The Chancellor, the Conservative Party refusing to be transparent or tell us this at the moment when you're responsible for the country's economy. Will you not say, or you don't know, or you won't say how the party is funded?
We absolutely are transparent. We follow all the rules, the regulations. We believe in that transparency. Many of the laws about it we actually passed ourselves, and the Conservative Party fully complies with all the requirements to be transparent about our donations.
Now, the Prime Minister yesterday seemed to indicate that we wouldn't be getting a general election in May. Can you give us a hint on when it might be? When would you prefer?
Well, I would love to give you that hint if I was able to, but I don't know the answer to that question. It's a question for the Prime Minister who decides when we're going to have the general election. But what we know today is that May the 2nd is going to be a very important day for local council and mayoral elections, and the Conservative Party will be putting all our effort into campaigning for the brilliant candidates that we've got up and down the country.
And Chancellor, just finally, we're talking about growth, aren't we, in development? And there's a new report come out from the FT talking about Commons sitting, the current parliamentary sessions, which began in November, and it's just found that it's 7 hours and 9 minutes all up. So do you think that needs improving, growth and productivity there as well?
I think that there are lots of things people want from their MPs, but more laws being passed is probably not top of the list. I think the most important thing is how hard MPs are working in their constituencies. And I would say, certainly when it comes to Conservative MPs, I've never seen a parliament where Conservative MPs have worked harder than this parliament to do the right thing for their constituents.
Thank you, Chancellor. And I'm just going to say really quickly, great investment here in Sunderland. What can you say to other councils, residents across the north of England who might have seen some of their projects not get off the ground?
Well, I think you can see there are levelling up projects in every part of the country. If I think about the northwest, I can think about the Eden project, Eden North, but you could say the same for every region, and indeed Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And indeed, since we started the levelling up agenda, 2/3 of all new employed jobs have been outside London and the South East.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thanks for your time.
So, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, in the last few moments, asked about another alleged £5 million donation from Frank Hester, the Tory donor who allegedly made those racist comments. Charlie, he appeared to dodge the question. I mean, saying the party is absolutely transparent. Really?
Well, transparent in the sense that you declare everything that's been donated to the party.
But he didn't answer the question about whether there'd been another £5 million donation, did he?
Well, I don't know, but if it's been donated, it'll be declared in the usual way. I mean, the question about whether it should be handed back, which has dominated, I think, the headlines over the last couple of days, is one that I think is slightly peculiar, because I just don't understand, after those comments which are abhorrent, which were disgusting, where there is no place in politics for that kind of language, regardless of your political party. But the idea to hand money back to a millionaire to make him even richer, I think would be the wrong move. I'd rather see that money go to funding maybe Tory party candidates from, black and ethnic minority groups, or to help encourage more people to come forward to stand in politics, because it costs a lot of money to be a candidate. So making sure that that fund can go to people who want to stand for the Conservative Party, or on social action projects which encourages social cohesion and diversity, to sort of challenge the narrative that was put forward. I think that would be a much better use of that money spent. But we'll have to wait and see whether it's 10 million, whether it's 15 million now on the back of that additional 5, and whatever the party decides to do with it.
Now, are those the kind of conversations that will be taking place in Number 10? Will they be talking about channeling that money and putting it into those sorts of endeavours, or would the Tory party simply not have that 15 million to potentially hand back at this stage?
Well, it's one where party and government sort of conflates, because obviously it's the Conservative Party and government, and I totally accept that, but it's the Conservative Party that will need to decide. And I know Rishi Sunak is the leader of the party, but we have a chairman of the Conservative Party, we have a chief executive. They will have to decide where the money, whether it's already been allocated or how they sort of fund it. The Prime Minister should be getting on with the job as he is of, growing the economy, cutting inflation, reducing those waiting lists in the NHS, and stopping the small boats.
How big are the Tory party coffers? I mean, for them to return 10, 15 million, is that a lot?
It's a significant amount, for sure. And I think, look, if the money was given, I'm sure it was given, obviously, in good faith. It was given at a time where I don't think anybody obviously was aware of these comments until it was broadcast. So I think it's a bit difficult once money has been donated, when comments hadn't been, or the comments hadn't been made, or certainly weren't known about. The Conservative Party had accepted it in good faith. So the idea that it's up to the Conservative Party to then have to give it back to an individual who has clearly made the inappropriate comments, it's now obviously front page national news, and I just don't think we should be making him richer by giving it back.
No, it's a really good point. Emma, he is one of the top donors to the Conservative Party. What he donated last year, we believe to be 15 million, made up a fifth of all donations to the party.
Yeah, in the run-up to the election, I don't think they can afford to give that money back. And also, I don't think this is a game that even the Labour Party necessarily want to play, because then what you'd have is a sort of rush to do offence archaeology on the donors of both parties. And like you say, there is increased transparency now, so that wouldn't be particularly difficult to do. And if we're going to start demanding that those people who contribute to, funding political parties or taking part in public life in other ways have a perfectly clean record in everything that they've said. Now, that's not to suggest that what he said wasn't unacceptable, but it's just that that's not really the way to go about it. So I don't think that the Conservative Party should hand the money back. They've already made a statement about what he said.
Stand, though, by doing that, to say this is absolutely not acceptable. They already say that it was racist comments. So if you're going to take that stand, and also the juxtapositioning with what Michael Gove said yesterday about this definition, this new definition of extremism, some people say what Frank Hester said was extremist language.
Well, certainly probably under the new definition.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, they've made their statement. He himself has apologised. They're historic statements. It's not like he said it yesterday. And that's not in any way to excuse what he said. But at the same time, I don't think that in order to take a stand, that necessitates them handing back the money.
I think the other thing, just to conclude, as well as what Emma was saying, that, it will be a race to the bottom of gutter politics, because every party, I'm sure, would have received, as there is in every political party, you will always get bad apples and people that say things that they shouldn't. And I think everybody will soon discover that there have been people that have donated to all political parties that are less than people who are fit for office, or have used language perhaps that they shouldn't. So we'll then get into a whole news agenda of who's donated to the Labour Party, who's donated to the Lib Dems,
let's be clear, that
reform.
extremism definition could be very easily weaponised to catch a whole host of people that we wouldn't now consider extremists. But if there was a Labour Party, when the Labour Party get into government, I think, you can see how that could very easily be weaponised against people. And we saw what happened with Lee Anderson and the Islamophobia debate. The Conservative Party haven't exactly been even-handed when you look at their response to Hester versus their response to Lee. So I think, as you brought up the extremism definition, you can see how you could end up with a rabbit hole of offence archaeology on party donors on all sides.
Do you drive, Emma?
No.
Charlie, do you drive?
I have a licence, yes.
Now, have you got us parking tickets, Charlie?
Yes.
Well, there's a reason why I don't have a car anymore. No. That's not true. I never got a parking ticket, actually.
OK, this is the story that drivers are being handed an average of more than 35,000 parking tickets by private companies every day. They're waiting for the government to impose new rules on the sector. It's a 5-year wait so far.
Yes, and I think the RAC are probably right to highlight this, because if you are a driver and if you have been fined, the fines can be up to, I think, £100, and the rules that the government brought forward was to try and half that anyway. So, but 35,000 parking tickets, every day right across the country does seem extreme, and those poor people who have to now are paying a £100 fine as opposed to 50 when they might have parked or just overstayed where they shouldn't for a small amount of time. I think these rules need to be enforced as soon as possible.
British public are a piggy bank, aren't they?
Well,
the
yes.
city can't, for private companies. It's endless, all of the ways in which people are getting money out of the public.
And I'm funding a lot of it. I get landed with parking tickets all the time.
Oh, I did. I was parking somewhere.
Yes, always.
And I thought the cameras were busts, and I parked, and I got fined about £500 in total in one go.
I think it's really important that
people
people contest it, because I think people probably just pay them because it's less hassle, because they're getting harassed by these companies.
Yeah.
rather than contesting them.
Yeah,
it's too much of a hassle.
OK, thank you both. Really good to see you both this morning. Now it's time for your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister has suffered a blow with another Tory MP announcing he won't run at the next general election. James Heappey is also expected to resign as Armed Forces Minister by the end of this month. GB News understands the decision is not over defence spending. Citing personal reasons, Mr Heappey says he's standing down to prioritise his family and to pursue a different career. More than 60 Tory MPs have now announced they're leaving the Commons as speculation continues to mount. Millions of pounds worth of drugs and 8 XL bullies have been seized during county lines raids. Hundreds of weapons were also found, including Rambo knives and machetes. Every police force across the country took part in the raids last week, resulting in more than 1,800 arrests. The Defence Secretary is warning Russia's president not to try it on while he was on a NATO visit in Eastern Europe. GB News was given exclusive access to a training exercise in Poland, where British forces are working with their allies preparing for any possible attack by Russia. It's part of Steadfast Defender, the largest military exercise since the Cold War. Grant Shapps says NATO members are ready and willing to protect themselves from any threat. And McDonald's has been forced to apologise to its customers after it was hit by an IT fault. Restaurants were affected globally, but the issue has now been resolved in the UK and in Ireland. The company blamed the issue on a technology outage, confirming there are no cybersecurity issues. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts.
For exclusive, limited edition and rare gold coins that are always newsworthy, Rosalind Gold proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.2749 and €1.1706. The price of gold is £1,700 and 31 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 7,748 points.
Rosalind Gold proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thanks, Tatiana. Now, just after us at midday is Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily, and they join us in the studio now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's coming up on the show?
It's very spooky. It's terrifying, even. I think it must be Halloween already. Why? We've got a zombie parliament in the United Kingdom. Now, what does this mean? This means that actually the amount of time MPs are sitting on the green benches is less and less and less. At the moment, the House of Commons is rising at around 4:30 in the evening. It opens at about 9:30. So it's only 7 hours that MPs are actually sitting doing the business in House of Commons. And that means that we're really slowing down the legislative agenda
Are we paying for
in the
less,
run-up to an
essentially?
election?
The MPs are getting this increase, OK, fine, but are we actually paying for less work? Are they getting more for doing less? And also, the NHS, did you know they have a green team?
No.
A green team, £3 million on salaries to make the NHS more green. Now, paramedics are rather concerned, for one, because essentially they're buying up all of these electric ambulances. Now, electric ambulances sounds fantastic until you actually look into it, and paramedics are very, very concerned about the response time, about how far they can go, how they're going to make it to rural areas, and potentially this could be putting patient safety at risk because they simply won't be able to get to people's homes in a quick enough amount of time.
And
so we're going to dig into this a bit.
of ambulance stations that have shut in recent years. So they've got a much bigger area.
Well, it's a different model, isn't it? If you close ambulance stations, you sort of believe that you can have ambulances covering a wider area and maybe having ambulances sort of parked outside of a station or whatever. But if you're doing these that are electric rather than running on petrol or diesel, it's much harder to have remote stations outside of a proper ambulance station. So perhaps...
But I didn't even know that the NHS was concerning itself with climate change and net zero. I thought, you know, medical priorities would come first. So we'll get to the bottom of that.
Yes, please do. All that and more, I'm sure, coming up on Good Afternoon Britain at midday. But for now, though, you're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Mint and Olive, Pip and Ellie. Stay with us. We'll be back with you after the break.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, I'm sure you have seen this video that went viral this week, and if you haven't, well, I think you're going to enjoy it. This is a firefighter leaning on a fence whilst watching a trapped driving instructor's car sink in 4 feet of floodwater. Looks very comfortable there, doesn't he? Just leaning against the fence.
Just chilling, just relaxing. Yeah, there were two. There were, in fact, 2 Essex fire and rescue crews, an ambulance and a police car parked near the sinking vehicle, but they wouldn't enter the water because they had to wait for specialist crews who were trained for the water depth.
Well, 2 people who weren't going to sit back and watch were these 2, Jack and Danielle Price, who took it upon themselves to rescue the submerged driver. And Danielle joins us now. Very good morning to you, Danielle. And you are a hero, an absolute hero. What happened in this video? Make sense of it for us.
So we were filming in the area for our YouTube channel, and we've seen the fire brigade come through. I was actually out at 5 o'clock in the morning with my husband, Jamie. We know it always happens there, as you can see, and it was clear. We've seen the fire brigade come through, we've followed them, and they're just standing around as if nothing's happened. In the clip, it says he's fine, he's on his phone, and then sort of walked away. But what they failed to realise is when my partner actually opened the door, as you can hear, he's on the phone to the emergency crew in panic, thinking he's going to sink. So we could not just sit there and watch. He's absolutely terrified.
Yeah, poor bloke. Well done you. Do you reckon this is health and safety gone mad?
It is, because although I do sympathise with them, they are so red-taped, but surely sort of common sense has to kick in as open the door.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 20 to 12. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me and Pip.
Christopher Hope, our political editor, has got a new podcast. Chopper's Political Podcast, it's called, and has just launched. And up first is superstar. I mean, you would have known her for the song, what was it? Kiss Kiss.
Kiss.
A few years ago. I don't know whether Chris Hope got a Kiss Kiss off her, but he talks to Holly Valance.
Yeah, it is a really good listen, and it will be available at gbnews.com or wherever you get your podcast. Let's take a listen.
I think crime's out of control. All of us have been robbed on King's Road in our area. Yep.
What happened when you were robbed?
I just had my phone taken out of the pram, like stealing off a mum with her baby in the pram. It's pretty low stuff. No, I wasn't hurt, fortunately. But yeah, I've had friends get belted for their phones and watches and home raids and trying to kick in doors. And it's
in Chelsea.
Yeah. Particularly in Chelsea, because they know people are walking around with probably a nice watch on.
Yeah, and the police are helpful.
They rob me, they're in for a nasty surprise. I'm usually in a Swatch down the street. No offence to Swatch.
And then what do the police do? Are they helpful?
They don't really turn up. You can call them, but I don't ever see a bobby. It's like kids point and stare now when you see a policeman on the street. Look, Mum, a real live police person. Person. So yeah. PC, policeman.
It's meant to bet in more
person.
20 police person.
Police person. Give me a break. Policeman, officer.
Yes. Well, they are. The UK government is investing more in police in England and Wales, maybe. So they're meant to be more around to reassure.
It would be nice to. I think it's a deterrent at the very least. And I also don't understand how in this day and age with such cheap technology, for instance, with CCTVs, like anyone can stick a Ring camera anywhere for 150 quid. Why, for instance, our high street doesn't have any CCTV cameras. Now, I'm not a big person who wants a lot of cameras around, but on a high street where everyone's being robbed blind, it might be a nice idea, and it doesn't cost much. So then why don't we have that?
Yes. Are you a backer of the Tories or Reform? Where are you politically?
So last time I voted Conservatives. Mm-hmm. Next time I'll be voting Reform.
Really?
Yeah.
You're I
think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Mm. And I'm sure as hell not going to Labour. So that's probably where I'm at.
So we're speaking a week ago where Lee Anderson crossed the floor just short distance from where we're sitting and became the Reform UK's first MP. You support that?
Yeah, he was. I support anybody that sort of sticks to what they believe in and isn't a turncoat, doesn't do a million flip-flops and U-turns. So I can have respect for that. Even for like nutters on the other side, if you stick to what you believe and you keep reiterating that over years and years, I can always respect that. I might not agree with you, but I get that more than the changing the minds and the flipping around and never having any conviction, not being like sort of staunchly for or against something. That's confusing to people, and I think people are sick of that.
Yeah, and he certainly believes in some things that he feels his party doesn't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Lee's moved from Labour to Conservatives now to Reform. It's really weird because there was this Reform party in Canada in 1993 that ditched the Tories in Canada as well, or got rid of blew them to smithereens, which is probably what's going to happen here. It's not that I think that we're necessarily going to have a Reform government.
No.
But it's a means to the next chapter of what things will look like.
Nigel Farage's mind when he set the party.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Size.
Interesting. Well, we had to put some of the points that Holly made to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. A spokesperson for him said, after what was discussed about Holly's experience in London, where she was talking to Christopher Hope there, this was clearly a frightening and distressing experience. While homicides, gun crime and the number of young people being injured with knives have all fallen since 2016, violent crime remains far too high. There is much more to do. The Mayor is determined to continue making progress by supporting the police.
And of course, Holly Valance was talking about being robbed in Chelsea, wasn't she? So the Metropolitan Police have given this statement saying in Westminster and Kensington and Chelsea, officers are regularly deployed into known hotspot locations, using innovative tactics and conducting high visibility patrols to keep the community safe.
Right, giddy up, everyone. We are off to Cheltenham next.
Yep, it's the final day of the festival. Our reporter Jack Carson is going to be there with all the latest. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning. Here's your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It has been a pretty mild week, but we're actually likely to see a touch of frost in some places tonight. Before then, though, it's a showery day for many of us. Perhaps some more persistent rain across parts of southern Scotland, northern England, but that will clear away towards the east as we go through the day. Elsewhere, some bright or sunny spells, but also quite a few showers, and some of these could turn heavy, possibly even thundery down towards the southeast. It is still mild at the moment, temperatures reaching highs of around 15 or 16 Celsius, so well above average for the time of year, but cooler towards the north. As we go later on, we are actually going to see a ridge of high pressure building. That's going to quieten our weather down. So most of the showers will ease and die out and clear away towards the east. And so it's going to turn mostly dry overnight, and we will have some clear skies. As a result, we're going to see temperatures taking a bit of a dip. Most places turning a bit chilly. Across some northern parts, we could see a touch of frost as temperatures fall a little bit below freezing in prone spots. So we wake up Saturday morning, a chilly but mostly fine start, maybe a few pockets of fog around, staying generally dry with a decent amount of sunshine towards the north and east, but across southern and western parts here, clouds going to push its way in, some outbreaks of rain initially, turning heavier as we go through the afternoon. Temperatures will pick up after a chilly start, so again we're likely to see highs in the mid-teens Celsius. Rain will push through as we go through Saturday night into Sunday, but once that clears, Sunday's looking mostly dry for many of us. Bye-bye.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. The Cheltenham Festival concludes today with one final chance for race lovers to secure that big winner.
And it's also the 100th anniversary of the Gold Cup race. So have you put a bet on yet, Pip?
I haven't, but I'm laughing at the people who've been talking about the bets they're having. I think it was the boxer, former boxer Ricky Hatton, who said he's going for a horse called Monkfish, on the basis that he doesn't eat fish, but when he does eat fish, he only eats monkfish.
Oh, well, there you
go. That's the reason for his bet.
That's kind of the way that I do it, or if I like the colours of the jersey, that's the way that I do it. Well, joining us to tell us more from Cheltenham is our reporter, Jack Carson. Good morning to you, Jack, and are you feeling lucky?
Am I feeling lucky? I'm not sure yet. I've not had a winner quite yet this week, so we'll see how today goes, shall we? But it's the final day of Cheltenham Festival. It's the big one today, of course, the Gold Cup, 100 years of the Gold Cup. It's rich in history, and of course there's lots of people here already very excited and eager for the action to get underway. But let's dissect some of it with the broadcaster and journalist Bruff Scott. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. 100 years of the Gold Cup. I mean, how special is this race in the calendar?
Well, it's the peak for chasing. This is the #1 race for a steeplechaser. And funny enough, in 1924, by the way, I wasn't there in 24, but I have been here for the last 60 years. But it was a quite small race. I mean, it's built up, and now it's the one that if you win the Gold Cup, you are the best steeplechaser over a distance in Britain and Ireland. And we used to argue in the world, but nowadays there's some very, very good horses in France. And indeed, it's arguable there's a horse called Il est Français, of all things, who might be the best horse of all.
And of course, it's a difficult circuit. It's over 3 miles. I mean, what kind of, as a jockey, what is going to be going through their minds over the course of the race today? How do you manage, that race in order to try and come out winner?
Well, I think the most important thing to take on board today is we've been watching some old races on the screen the last 20 years or so. This will be very, very soft ground. It's now quite nice, but it's been pouring with rain earlier this morning. It poured with rain last night. As you know, it's been raining in England for the last 3 months or so. And horses will be really sloggy. And whereas in human athletics, I mean, the weather makes a bit of difference to the wind, but fundamentally they run on the same surface. The surface is completely different if it's very, very wet compared to when it's been dry for weeks. And at the end of this race, the horses will be rolling around. If you've got half a ton of horse and you're a 10 stone, 65 kilo, 70 kilo jockey, you've got this huge thing rolling underneath. You've got to try and hold it together. And it doesn't look very far necessarily immediately, but from the last fence to the winning post is something like 230 metres. And then every single one of those is slightly uphill, and by the end, every single number. And the end of every horse race, particularly here, it's an optical illusion. People say, oh, so-and-so quickens up. No, they didn't. They're all slowing down. The one who overtakes is the one who's stronger, because they're all tired. And people looking in look for a horse that keeps rolling. But that's the deal, and it is exceptionally soft, and so there might be a surprise. But in the Gold Cup itself, there's last year's winner, a horse called Galopin des Champs, like a lot of horses bred in France, and if he delivers the way he was last year and the way he was the last time he ran at Leopardstown, and he jumps all the fences clearly, logically he will win. But I have to say, one of the most greatest truism in racing is that it's an inexact science. People can bang on about, oh, he ought to win it. Well, he should win if everything goes right for him, because he's actually got a better optimum performance. But we all know, even as broadcasters, we have suboptimal performances sometimes, and I've done plenty myself. I'm sure you never have, Jack. But no, we've got a top horse, last year's winner, who, if he does it, he could be an outstanding winner again. But will he do it on this ground? Will he be able to pull it off? 27 fences of it is. It's absolutely not guaranteed. It'll be whatever happens. It'll be a slog.
All right, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Bruff, to talk through and preview some of the Gold Cup today. It's sure to be a high speed, a very, very exciting race as it gets underway a little bit later on. Lots of people here already very excited for all the action here at the final day of Cheltenham.
Oh, Jack, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much indeed. And Pip, I've got really into these names of these horses. This is at 3:30 this afternoon, the Gold Cup race. I think I'm also with Monkfish, but there's some great ones here. Fast to Slow, very good.
Jungle Boogie.
Brave Man's Game. Where's the other one? Gentleman's Game. I like that as well. Sounds sophisticated. Classy.
You don't really have a clue,
I don't have a clue.
Neither do I, but I'll tell you what, the prize money's good today, I think.
Is it?
The winning horse, £350,000 plus.
Ah, well.
That's not bad, is it? But the money is on, at the moment, the defending champion, Galopin des Champs. Well, thank you for your company today on Britain's Newsroom. We are both back in the saddle tomorrow morning.
Very good.
See what I did there?
Yes, I'm back with Pete, 10 till 12 tomorrow. Then it's you. Midday till 3. Big shift for you. Thank you for your company today. Up next is Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily.
Have a great day.
Oh, thanks, Pip and Ellie. I have to say, my favourite name for a horse, I think, was May the Horse Be With You. All one word.
Very good.
But today we're going to be talking about MPs. Are they being paid more for doing less? Find out why.
Yes, and the NHS could they be putting net zero and green credentials over medical priorities, over patient safety. You won't believe what they're spending on various green schemes. We'll get to the nub of it. And also, Palestinian flags finally been taken down in the Council of Tower Hamlets. Why has that finally happened?
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Here's your GB News weather forecast in association with the Met Office. Many of us are at risk of seeing some showers, and they could be a bit thundery in some places, but there will be some sunshine in between. At the moment, an area of low pressure just to the northeast of the UK is bringing the focus of a bit more persistent rain across parts of southern Scotland and perhaps into northern England, but that is going to ease and clear away as we go through the day. Otherwise, and like I said, for many of us, the risk of some showers, and these could turn heavy, perhaps even thundery across southern parts, though the risk of thunder pushes into East Anglia as we go through the afternoon. Some sunny spells in between the showers, and it is going to be mild, temperatures reaching highs around 15, 16, possibly even 17 Celsius towards the south, but watch out for some blustery winds. Later on, we will see most of those showers easing and clearing away towards the east, with some clearer skies developing for many of us and a bit of a northerly wind too. As a result, temperatures are going to drop. It's going to be markedly chillier than some recent nights. Across northern parts, we could see a touch of frost, and even elsewhere, a few pockets of fog are possible first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, after a chilly start, but mostly fine one for much of the country, holding on to the decent blue skies across northern and eastern parts for a good chunk of the day. Further south and west, though, turning cloudier with outbreaks of rain pushing their way in, the rain turning heavier and more persistent across Northern Ireland later. After a chilly start, temperatures are going to rise, so it should turn pretty mild by the afternoon. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
I'm flipping heck. I don't know what to say.
Enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten